Perfect. Okay. What's up, motherfuckers? My name is Richard. My name is Richard Lonsberry. Welcome to the Heroic Husband.
Just wait though. That's how you start every coaching session right there. Yeah. So
before I was rudely interrupted, welcome to the Heroic Husband program testimonial section, where I get a stranger off of the streets of Texas and I pay them a lot of money for them to say good things about my business. Chris, how much am I paying you for this interview today?
I think it was at least 12,000. That's the only way. That's the only way I would get on here. Not a penny less than 12.
That's true. That's true. But in all seriousness, though, the Heroic Husband program, this is an interview with one of my most successful star, clients, students, pupils, allies. Right? Coaching is a designed alliance between the coach and the participant. And I want to show him off. I want to share his story because his story may very well be your story. It definitely was mine, right? And I couldn't be more proud of this guy. And I couldn't be more excited to introduce him to you, have him speak to the work that we've done, to the transformation that he's made in becoming a leader in his home and in his business and in his life. And hopefully this will bring some value to you watching, and will empower you to take the steps that you need to take in order to get to where you want to go, which is to save your sex life by becoming her hero, a heroic husband. All right. Seriously, brother, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you being here. Well, now you're muted, so I don't know if you meant what you said, but I can't.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I don't know what you said, but there's something I wanted to say first. So whenever I get invoices from you, it cuts off like the husband part and it looks like heroic chub. I just wanted to put that out there first. So it really works. It's actually built in with the messaging. Yeah.
Heroic chub. Fucking chub. So can you state your name for us, please?
Okay, like my full name for the record?
Yeah, man.
Christopher Paul Scott.
Christopher Paul Scott.
That's like a country singer name. So
yeah, man, I was gonna say it's the whitest name I think of most men I've worked with.
I'm not sure your name might be whiter, which is ironic.
Richard Earl Lonsberry. Yeah, go figure.
Yeah.
Your business name is right now. It's basically just.
It's just me. It's my name.
Chris Scott.
It's all about me.
Holdings Ventures.
Yes.
Is there anything that you want to say before we get started, brother?
No. I mean, not really. Just
cool.
I'm here for it.
So, man, what was your situation before starting to work together?
All right. So my situation. Let me see. There's a lot here for this. So my situation basically began like January of 2021.
Yeah.
And there's obviously stuff preceding that, right? But my wife basically was like, I'm done. I want a divorce. I'm out. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Right? So that was the fundamentals of that. And that woke me up from like a fog that I was in since at least 2019. And so I scrambled around the internet to look for stuff at that time. Like I found some men's coaching, like a men's coaching group, which helped a good bit. It stabilized things.
Yeah.
Right. But later on, like I had quit that because I'm like, this isn't taking me like, wherever you want to call it, to the next level of where I want to go here. And that's when we started talking. Right. And, before we even started working together, we had just talked. I think we did like a power hour session or whatever you called it. back then. And then I got my wife to send me some nice pictures was what we'll say here. Right. Like, so I'm like, all right, I'm in.
That was, you hopped on in a power, I was offering like $97 power hour calls.
Yeah.
You on it. And after the call, right, you end up getting some pretty like sexy, pictures from wifey. And that was between the power hour call and then our official Clarity sales call, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, this is good. This is good buy-in right here. Right. And I just, for me, I knew it was the right next move, because with the other things I was doing, it just brought to question a lot of things. I felt like it was too passive. Right. And a lot of what we've done together is kind of, yeah, you need that solidness, right? Whatever, like non-reactivity, but there's the level beyond that, right? Of knowing how to really lead and handle those things. And that's one of the biggest things, right? So that took us from, she was starting to come back into things, and this took us to a lot of now, like way more passion, way more connection, way more closeness, right? Like to where like now we go on a date every week, right? As an example, which she's excited for, right? It's not just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come along for, all right, you gotta force me on this date.
Yeah,
right.
her to Applebee's.
Yeah, Applebee's, the Applebee's. So, and like she wants to do all these things. She wants to be together, right? Like she wants to grow in the relationship. She wants to work on herself, right? Which before was not the case.
Why do you think
there was
that
progress? Which part?
Why does she want, because this is important, this is a pretty big thing that you actually were able to do, is why does she want to work on herself now?
Well, one, because I've done the deep work on myself, right? And two, I this is my take, right? Like I show up in a completely different way. Right? Where it's like where I handle things, right, to where she wants to be part of that, right? In my sense, is like she doesn't want to be left behind in that, right? Because I'm moving this way, and this is the way we're going.
Yeah,
right?
the train, the dope train is leaving the station.
Yeah. So, and it's crazy because the level of like, so my wife's a pretty, we'll say strong woman. We'll use those words, strong, independent woman
who don't need no man. Yes.
Yeah, and she comes from a history of that, and everything with her situation growing up with lack of a real father figure, her biological dad being gone, and then her stepdad just not great either.
So her relationship to the masculine was fucked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So like terrible abandonment stuff, terrible, like growing up where pretty much in a single, like her teenage years where it was her mom basically working and taking care of everything. Right. That's how she grew up, which I didn't think of much at the time.
Yeah.
When we were getting together. Because when me and my wife met, she was 18. And I was 22. Right. So she was literally funny enough, she was finishing up high school. Which I didn't know at the time. That's a whole other story. But we basically grown up together. So there's a lot of stuff like I didn't see, right? Like, and you don't when you're young and when you don't know all this stuff. Where it's like we triggered each other, right? To trigger these deeper wounds, right?
Yeah. Over
time. Which would basically to her prove the story like that men aren't reliable, blah, blah, blah. Right. Which through all this though, it's been able to reverse it. Now I think this is the most powerful thing is like, if I don't know how to put this into words, right? It's like, I came from my wife being like, screw you, I hate you. Like we've talked about some of the worst things you can hear from a woman, which I won't even put on here. Right. Yeah. Like some of, like, I think you said to me the other day, like something like no man or anyone should really want to hear. Right.
Yeah.
Or
It's
Like,
the great. It's the greatest hits of the last thing a husband wants to hear from his wife.
yes, that's a great way to say it. Yeah, yeah, the greatest hits that never want to be hit on again. So coming from that, saying like basically I don't love you, right? Like pretty like I hate you, really. And coming back to like where she wants to pretty much spend all this time with me all the time.
Yeah.
Right. It's really crazy to think about it. Like if you put this out there, like to most people, this would probably seem impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And in fact, most of the groups that I've been in, like relationship groups or otherwise, they're like, oh yeah, you're done. Like move on.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's most of the advice out there. Just terrible advice, by the way.
Yeah. Or you're done, move on. Yeah.
Because this is like this. If you can come back from that, like anything is, we'll say salvageable, but it's more than that. Because this is more than just about my marriage. It's more like the belief for me is like I can come back from anything. Like there's nothing that's like too big, right? Or too bad or quote unquote too far gone that it can't be recovered or improved or changed.
I love that, dude. Seriously, thank you for that. Thank you for saying that. Because one of the avatars, one of the examples that we really used for masculinity was actually Jesus Christ, right? And like without it being funny, without it actually being a joke, because I know that, you know, society's turned him into a meme,
Yeah.
but you think about what is the core value and the core message of what Jesus stood for. No man is beyond redemption, right? Like there's no, you can't stray too far from God. You may think that you do, you may think that you can, you know, but the truth of the matter is any man, no matter where you are in your journey, no matter how ashamed you are of what you've done, who you've been, all of the darkness in your heart, all the darkness that you've projected out, right? All the hurt, you can return, like Marianne Williamson says, to love. And to your point, what I'm hearing you say is you were able to return not only yourself, but you were able to return your woman back to love, which is the entire purpose of masculine leadership, right? Is to facilitate safety and to return back to, you know, direction. And the direction is always back home to ourselves, right? It's always back home to unconditional love. And which is one of the things that I noticed that really put gas in the tank, right? Like even in the times of fuck this, even in the times of, well, when does this train take off, right? Like what the hell, Richard, right? Even in those times, I noticed that the thing that really made the shift for you was I'm not giving up, right? It was the certainty, it was the complete resolve in unconditionally loving this woman and yourself through all of the adversity and all of the walls, because she had about 1 million walls. Like it was like Game of Thrones, right? It was the wall, right? It was that gigantic ice wall, bigger than the Great China, and you had the wildlings, right? You had all these ice motherfuckers on the other side. I'm just really grateful that you said that, because it's, you're done, move on. That's someone else projecting their defeatist attitude onto you. And one of the things that we stand for and believe here in the Heroic Husband is that there is no situation that is irredeemable. There is no situation that cannot be turned around, right? If at least if you're all in. Because if you're all in, what do you end up doing, right? You end up creating clarity. So it's either I'm going to become the greatest version of myself, and I'm going to create this container, this relationship to where you can feel seen, heard, understood, and celebrated, right? And then what are we going to do with that? We're going to move forward, or it's going to be too much for you and you're like, fuck this, I'm out. But you win either way, right? And so I just, to anyone who's really feeling hopeless, right? Oh, my situation is different. You know, one of the things, my favorite author, Eric Greitens, the author of Resilience, he said is your pain is valuable. Your pain is valid. Sorry, your pain is valid. It's not unique. right? Your pain is valid. It is not unique. Meaning, if one man can turn it all around, so can another, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for saying that, bro. And I just had 2 more questions for you right over here, which is, what are the 3 biggest changes that you've seen upon finishing our work together?
So I'd say number 1 is the willingness to just live wide open no matter what. Now there's still times, like obviously naturally, where I want to close off, but it comes back to just coming wide open, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you talked about like going all in means opening all up. And to me, and just in case anyone's confused, it doesn't mean like spitting all up, like spitting all my emotional vomit everywhere, but it's literally, which where my heart is wide open. So literally it's open to all the good, and it's also open to all the quote unquote bad. Right. But I will say, like, that's one of the biggest things, because outside, like in my relationship, like your wife can feel that, first of all. Like, even if they don't know they're feeling it, right? They feel if it's open. Because I can tell you, the moment I really, really just fully opened it, that changed a lot of things. Right. But it's scary for a lot of us. It can be scary because it's like, well, I'm gonna be open to all the pain. Right. Which brings me to my second thing, is like that pain is a gift. Right. And it can be hard to see that when you're in it. But so that I would say that's the second thing I gained, is like the ability to really go into that pain and we'll say transmute it.
Yeah.
Like I have for anyone watching, like I have a background, like I help people through emotional pain, like that's what I do, and emotional issues. So I'm familiar with it, but it's like I needed that help as well, right? Because there's some things you just don't see. So I think that's important to note. Because some people could be watching this and be like, oh, well, yeah, I know all these things, blah, 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 blah. No, you don't. You're full of crap. Because this is the reality. And me and Richard have talked about this. This is the reality. You know it at a logical level, but you don't actually know it from an experiential level for yourself. Right? Because I know lots of things. Right? Like I know lots of things. I've studied all the things.
Yeah.
But until you get on that experiential level, it almost doesn't matter. I think it was Stephen Covey that was like, to know and not to do is to not know.
I love that.
Yeah, friggin' one of the greatest quotes ever. So it's kind of, and I like that, it's like to know but to not experience is to not really know.
Yeah.
Right. Because like I can read about God in the Bible, or whatever, you know, or Jesus in the Bible, right? But it's like I don't actually know. Like I just know about him.
Yeah.
But it's like to really experience Jesus or to experience God is completely different than to read about them.
Yeah, you have to be you have to be exposed to a circumstance where you have a choice to make, right? And the choice is take the high road or take the low road. What does Jesus do? You high road, but it isn't until you actually are faced with that, right? To your point, I know from personal experience how many opportunities in relationships, right? Do we have adversity, and do we have these opportunities to constantly take the low road? Because relationships are the Olympics of personal development.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to get triggered and hurt the most. It's where your ego does not want to go because it's going to die, right? If the goal is love, to your point, then to know something is to have experienced it, which one of the things that Wayne Dyer talks about, right, or talked about, is belief is something that was injected into your skull, right? Belief is something that is a result of, your interpretation of something that happened or something that somebody told you. But to know something in your bones is rooted in experience. So just to further and perpetuate, your point, to expand on that, is when you experience it, when you experience the actual attraction, or you experience forgiveness on a very profound level, like you did, that's when you actually know who and what you are and what you're capable of. You were going to say?
Yeah. Well, one thing to what you're saying here, this might be the third thing. There's something else I was thinking of, but let me go with this first. You have to, like, as the man, you have to be willing to go into hell first. Right? We're constantly, because this is the one big thing. You're constantly like, oh, my wife this, my wife that. She needs to change this. She's like this. Blah 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 blah. And it could be all true, but guess what? It's probably your fault anyway.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reality of the situation. Most of our wife's reactions are actually from how we're being. Right? But it's very easy to play the blame game. Right? But it's when your wife sees you, whether she sees it like actually seeing it or just experiences the after effects, when she sees you willing to go through hell to become the best version of you, that's attractive as hell. Right?
Yeah. Resilience.
And I'll say that's what makes her want to go through whatever she needs to go through. Because that's the thing. She's scared too. But guess what? She needs someone to lead her out of that mess. Right? And you lead by example first. Which then for me, it gives you the confidence to lead her out. Because you're like, I've been there, done that. And I can help you too. Right? So we take this back to Jesus for a second. Jesus is like, literally, I felt all your sins. I took all that crap, whatever it is, the sicknesses, everything. I already know.
Yeah.
I liken it to that. Not to compare myself to Jesus or anything, but
well, I think it's definitely very indicative of Abram's lens flare, man. You look like you're.
I'm gonna Star Wars or Star Trek movie.
For the record, Chris is not dead. He's not actually talking to us from the afterlife. He's in Texas.
Yes. Well, that's close. That's close to
You're in hell. There's a difference.
Yeah, depending who you ask. So I think this is still a work in progress, but I think the third thing is along the lines of not taking things personally. Right? So even if the things are meant to be personal, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, your wife could call you a fat pig who smells like grease, whatever. and that could be true. That could be true. Objectively. That could be true objectively. Right? But you and I we had this talk the other day, right, about this, is like, even if it's objectively true, which most of the time is actually subjective, right? It's really about her and what she's dealing with. It has nothing to do with you. And it's just the story we create around it, right? But even if it's objectively true, I still get to choose to create the story I want around it that actually supports me in what I want. And what I want is, in my marriage, right, is more intimacy, more closeness in a deeper relationship. So I can ask myself, no matter what's objectively going on here, what is the story that's going to actually support me in that?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that the story being the internal narrative, the mental narrative of what's happening outside, right? Your interpretation of those experiences. If my wife ends up calling me a fat pig who sucks and smells like grease, right? Even if that's true. Even if that's true, I have power in choosing how I want to interpret that, right? Where she's coming from, which is where empathy comes in, which is, we worked a lot on that. And really understanding why she would say that, the energy behind the words. And then, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, I think this is the important thing to realize, like, the feminine, like, women are messy with their emotions, right? So here's the thing, is like, they can say some crazy stuff and it comes out horrible, but it doesn't mean they're wrong also, right? No. Because it's like, while you don't want to allow that kind of behavior, like where it's very disrespectful and whatnot, which that's a whole other topic, right? But women are usually actually hitting on something that's actually true, right? Like, and so it's an opportunity for us as a man to reflect and be like, okay, maybe there's something I need to change here, right? But this is what I learned. I get to choose to change that, right?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing that I've found too, is like, if my wife tells me to change something, it immediately makes me not want to change it, even if it's valid, right? Like, that's my initial instinctual reaction, which I've learned. So it's like leading my wife and actually leading her more into her feelings, which is really, 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 really important. And I have a lot of work to do still there, right? But like, it's huge changes. When she tells me what she feels, then I can actually lead and make the decision what to do.
Yeah.
Right. Which she feels better and I feel better. Because one, no woman likes it when they have to tell you what to do and you do it. That actually seems, you're like, well, I did what you said you wanted me to do. It's like, that's why I don't like it.
I know, that's probably we talked about this for hours, man. Like, this was a whole calls that were rooted in this too. It was well, I did what she said. What the fuck is her problem? Well, because she's playing you like a puppet master, not from a nefarious place, not from a manipulative place. There's if you bend to her every will, even if she's right, and even if it is something that needs to change, if you don't own that decision, and if it's not your decision to make, but it's mostly influenced by someone else, it could have been your mother, right? It could have been anybody else. And if you cave to the expectations and the standards of another person, you don't have sovereignty. And without sovereignty, there's no safety. And without safety, there's no attraction.
So let me tell you something. I want to spark this up. This is really powerful for anyone listening here. Is my wife told me something very interesting. She says, I can't trust you if you don't tell me no. Like, this is out of my wife's own mouth.
Yeah. From the source.
So, yeah, the source, the source. So this is what's interesting about it, because like, a lot of people think like, oh, happy wife, happy life, which is bullcrap, by the way. Absolutely garbage. Here's the thing. And you're not just saying no to say no. You're just, if that's how you feel, you're saying what you feel and how you feel things should go, right? And how you're directing things. She said this, and she said it's very interesting. And this comes from like, whether your wife is like insecure about other women or whatever it is. She's like, I know I can trust you, because if a woman came on to you, for example, if you can tell me no, I can trust that you're going to tell someone else no.
Yeah, that's a really good
point.
Right?
She's like, if you can't, she said this, she's like, if you can't stand up to me, how can I ever trust you to stand up for me? And this is where a lot of guys mess up, because they're like, what do you mean stand up to your wife?
Yeah.
Like, and this isn't in like an egotistical way. It's so, and I'll give an example of this real quick. It's like, my wife can like get really triggered by something, and she'll be like, you're stupid, you're an idiot, like all these names. And I'll be like, okay, I totally want to hear what you feel, right? However, we're not going to use any of that language. You're not going to call me, you're not going to do anything like that.
Yeah.
Right. And now that, like, to a lot of people probably even hearing me say this can be like, oh, the freak out. I could never tell my wife that. Yeah, you can, and you need to, right? Because she'll tell me.
It's not abuse to stand up for yourself and to maintain frame, to actually command respect with how you hold yourself and how you communicate that. And the way that you are doing so is in a way that's rooted in personal power. It's like, hey, listen, I won't be spoken to in that way, and I love you, which is exactly the embodiment with strength and love. Go on.
And here's the thing with that is, like, she can still actually be mad and even try to double down, but then I'll be like, hey, you know what? Like, it's like this, until you get that sorted out, I'm here to listen to it, but until you get that part sorted out, I'm gonna step away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, especially if she's coming, there's different scenarios, right? And she'll tell me this. She'll know in that moment that she's being irrational and she's doing something wrong and being wrong and disrespectful, but she kind of wants it. It's like that inner child comes out. I want to, right? But she'll tell me later on, she's like, I love it when you basically tell me that I'm wrong. So just listen to that, guys. Listen to that. Whoever's listening to that, like,
love it. When you heard it here first, motherfuckers.
You heard it here first.
I love it when you tell me that I'm wrong. Now, real quick, because this is important, I would love for you to speak to that within the context of, you believe in her and you know who she truly is and what she's capable of, right? Because it's never in a need to dominate your wife. It's never to be right. It's to return back to what we talked about, returning to love. This is not who you are. You are way more loving, way more beautiful, way more, powerful than this unconscious behavior.
Yeah, well, that is the thing, because I think that's the thing your focus needs to be on. You're actually not doing this for you, you're doing it for her. Like, far more for her, because that is the thing, and that's the exact thoughts I've had. Like, this isn't you. And it's not good for her, because here's the thing: you train her to be like that, and it makes her feel terrible. So what, you want your wife to feel terrible?
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing to think about, is like when you let her do that. If my wife said this time, she's like, I can't respect anyone that I can walk all over.
Mm.
Right? Like, again, these are things coming out of my wife's mouth, because we talk about all this stuff. We've talked about this stuff in depth.
Yeah.
Right. Especially after we've gone through this, we've talked a lot about like kind of her side of things. And yeah, it really comes down to that. Like, women can totally know that they're being wrong, but again, if they're fueled by a trigger or anything else, they're just gonna, like, just like us, they're gonna keep going with it. So it's our responsibility, right, as their husband, to help lead them out of that. Right?
Yeah.
That's not to fix anything necessarily, right, but to like lead them back to their emotions, their feelings.
Yeah.
Because usually when they get in that space, they're in this, like, you know, kind of like that masculine thing. And especially if your woman comes from like a house where dad was like not there, whether physically or emotionally or both, like she's gonna have this extra hard.
Yeah.
Right. So like for me, I had to learn, like, I got an extra special woman, you know, like.
Yeah. And you had to really establish, like, you had to double down on becoming the safest person in your own life, in yourself. Which, what did that do, right? That you know, triggered the authenticity to say no. It triggered the self-love and the self-respect to be like, these are my boundaries. This won't happen. This is who we are. This is where we're going. And that created trust.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if I could say anything to that, yeah, like the boundaries create trust. Right? Because again, like she said, like, I know you're willing to say no. I know you're willing to stand up to you. That, all those things create trust, because she knows I'm not trying. Like, this is the thing. You, like, pleasing your wife is the worst thing you can do if you actually want to please her. Right? Like, it seems so backwards to most of us, but it's like, if you're actually trying to please your wife, you're actually going to make her unpleased.
Yeah.
Like, and I see this in my relationship. I see this in other relationships. It's so obvious. Because again, they think like, oh, I'm doing what I thought I should do, or what she wants. But when you start feeling into it, you really start feeling how wrong it feels at your core.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. Like, I've come to trust is like that deeper instinct. Right? To where, so it's like I can follow that instinct and know what to do, even if I didn't know what to do beforehand.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, this is the most important thing, is your wife in that moment isn't always going to respond how you think. Like, you might think, oh, I stood up for myself and she got more pissed. Great. Perfect. That's her still testing you. She's testing your boundaries still. And she has her own wounds. Right. But later on, when she's calmed down, I will guarantee, I would bet my life on this, she will literally respect you like hell and want your ball sack. Okay.
Yeah. It's
like
emotional resilience, like emotional intelligence and emotional resilience breed respect, which is something that we, you know, covered for a good amount of time. Right. And one of the best metaphors, one of my buddies, Jim Vance, he said, is that you want to think of yourself like a ladder, right? Like, you know, your woman will shake this thing, you know, to make sure that it's steady so that she can climb it, right? And that she can get to the roof and she can enjoy the view that you have for her. But she needs to put her foot on it. She needs to shake it and make sure that it's sturdy. What is that?
Well, and here's the thing. I was joking with this about my wife yesterday. We were saying, like, how do you know a woman's testing you? This is the secret, guys. Are you ready for it? She's always testing you. If she's there, if she's a woman, if she's a woman.
Hold on. Let me check your math on this. Is she alive?
Yeah. Is she alive? If she has a pulse, is she a woman? Then she's testing you, right? Even if she doesn't know, because again, a woman's priority, right, at the deepest level, one of the deepest priorities is safety.
Yeah.
Right. We can feel totally unsafe and be ready to like jump her bones.
Yeah.
Right. But it doesn't work the same way for her.
Yeah. I love that. It's like, trick question, bitch. She's all, oh man, dude, I think two things. Number one, I think we need to do a podcast episode as well as this.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that
yeah,
we need to expand this into like a 2-hour conversation.
Yeah, we can talk about this. Yes.
But to wrap this up, because this is too good and we can spend all day on this, and I want these guys to go get more. What have these results allowed you to do?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, number one, which is a big thing I lost, is allowed me to trust myself more, right? Especially when it comes to my marriage, but again, it applies to business and everything.
Yeah,
it's allowed me to like just pull back easier. Like previously, I could have went into like, especially with things in my marriage, like emotional spiral where it take me days to recover, right? And now usually I can do that within moments.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Can you real quick, can you speak to that? Because one of the things that, was in the copy of this testimonial was how you were able to really make a leap from potentially going from like 15K to 40K months as a result of simply working on your marriage. Could you speak to that really quick?
Yeah. So yeah, like, so previous, like, it's very interesting. Previous to us working together, like I had been the lowest I'd been in a while, right? And then basically like tripled the income like the 3 months we were working together. And again, that came from just coming, like really, I mean, if I really narrowed down, it came back to coming home to myself, who I am, what I want, and my focus. Right. And it was pretty effortless. Right.
Yeah.
Actually, in some ways, I think it was less effort than producing less money.
Yeah.
Right. So, and and that's the funny thing, there's no direct focus on my business. Like we didn't do any business strategy or any work in the time of that. Right. It was just like, oh yeah, great. Here's some more money coming in. No problem.
Well, I mean, you activated abundance in your home, which is like the most important thing, which I noticed. Yeah. There was a mentality of there is enough. And I think one of the things that you did is you put yourself through challenges, right? You put yourself through tough conversations with her, which built up the muscle of, oh, I have enough in the tank to, go toe to toe, right, with my woman. So so there is enough. One of the things that it does, and one of the things that you help do, is really rewire a person's subconscious. So then you start to believe and you start to really know that there is in fact plenty of energy and there's plenty of resources, and then you are safe, you are loved, and you have enough to create whatever the hell it is you want to create.
Yeah, so this is perfect. So we're coming to the end here, but I want to share this because I think it's important. One, and I related this to you today, like I've lost any shame around like if I had no money, right? Because before I'd be like, oh, like I'm really good at what I do, like I should be making less money. And some months it might be like, oh, it goes lower or whatever. Like I used to make that mean a lot about me.
Yeah.
Right? That's gone, right? Like even like I'm talking about it right now, right? There's nothing. Like I could have zero and it means zero about me, right? Like it doesn't even matter. It's just money. It's whatever, right? Whereas before it was just like, this is literally almost like my self-worth. Right. There's that. And then I also say, like, before working with you, again, I had worked through like a men's program and all kind of different belief work and stuff. And it helped, but nothing helped in the way of what we did together. I'm talking about tens of thousands of dollars on previous stuff, right? To put that into perspective with some of the best people in the world. Who are great people. It just didn't get me to where to work for what I needed, but our work together has, right? So I wanted to point that out.
Thank you. So the two things, the big things that these results have allowed you to do is to trust yourself more as a result of coming home to yourself, which made attraction of both money, sex, intimacy, right, joy, sort of effortless, which is a high vibe. And then the second thing is, no longer equating money to self-worth. Like you've released shame and guilt around these external things because they no longer mean anything about you and who you are, which can only lead to further empowerment, right? And then what does it to do? It allows us to move faster in our business. It allows us to move fast. You mentioned it too, the ability to bounce back to center, because we talk about that a lot, right? Where is center? Center is the epicenter of creation. I want to create the experience that I want to have in this world. Well, when I'm centered, I can do that. When I'm off center, when I'm triggered, when I'm upset, when I'm unconscious, I can't do anything, right? I am invulnerable to whatever beliefs, whatever thoughts I have around money, around who I am. It's stuck in the ego. Being center is being like having your center in spirit, which is infinite, which is where human potential lies. So thank you for saying that. And then the final thing I have for you here, man, which, God damn it, this has been great. I appreciate the fuck out of you. And this has been so much fun too. Just like, I'm even just like, you're just reminding me. Right?
That's what I'm here for.
I'm taking notes myself. I was like, God damn, am I that good? Shit.
It's actually me that's good. That's that good. Sorry.
We are that good.
The we me.
Dude, no, honestly, man, I learned a thing or two here too. And this is just fantastic. I'm just very grateful for you. Would you recommend the Heroic Husband program and or moving forward, and to whom would you recommend it to?
Yeah, well, obviously, yes. That's why I'm here.
Oh, stupid. Yeah.
But I mean, I would recommend this, to literally any man, period, right? But even if your marriage it feels decent, I'm telling you, it can go to leaps and bounds to where you think it can go, right? But especially if it's struggling, it's just like, because I think about where mine is now, like mine's like leaps and bounds where it was, and I know even from here though, like there's so much, and I can feel that in my body, right? And there's excitement there because I know the possibility. And here's the thing: so you want more confidence in your ability to lead to that like promised land, so to speak, then you'll want to get in on this, right? Because like I in my being, right, I feel that like, oh yeah, I can lead us there. Now, is there times where like doubts and stuff crop up? Yeah, that's normal, and there's things to clear that up and work through that, and all of that. But like ultimately, at my core, I'm like, yeah, I can lead us anywhere, right? Which, I can lead us to like the 25,000 mile high club. Is that it? Is that 25,000?
Yeah.
30, 40, 50,000.
Dude, the mile high club. Got it.
The space club.
Space sex. That's
Mars.
That's my new company. I'm gonna call it Space Sex, bitch.
Space Sex. Oh, that's a good one. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Elon Musk with his sink. Anyways. Yeah. So that's what I recommend you. But it's like this. It's like, again, even your marriage is going decent. I think some people might overlook this because decent isn't not good enough, right?
Yeah.
If you're the type of man like I am, like you want the best, like you want it all. You want literally all of it, like in all areas of your life, right? But you want that passionate marriage, because like I've thought about this, like the average marriage in America, in the world, probably it's freaking terrible. I don't care if they stay together for 60 years, like they don't have even any passion. So it's like, yeah, we got like a 50% divorce rate, but then it's like even those people who stay together, most of them who stay together, it's like,
yeah,
So if you don't want like an marriage, you want something where you're like you die having sex. Right, like that's your death, like you die during sex, then you should get into the program.
He died doing what he
loved. Yeah, exactly. Doing what and who he loved. There we go.
If you want, dude,
die doing what you love. That's a meme right there. You can get a
This
meme. You can get a meme all over that.
marketing material on earth. If you want to die having sex with your woman at 99,
Join my program.
join this. All right. Is there anything else left in the tank that you want to share, or to share with our guys?
I mean, yeah, there's plenty, but I think we covered most of it. We could if we do that podcast thing, we can definitely cover some of these points in depth. Which, if people are watching this and want like any of those points stick out, I mean, each of those points, like literally, we could spend an hour or two just on one of those points.
How can people find you? Go ahead and just plug yourself so that they can get more context, or they can actually talk to you too, man.
Yeah. So if you go to Facebook, I think I have my name under there as Chris Scott. I'm officially a digital creator now. Like, I'm pretty much the god of the universe, as we talked about before this call. So you can see me there with my wife. I don't know what my link is.
I'll put it in.
So you can provide some links. And like I said, I do a lot of the deep emotional subconscious work myself. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm very familiar with this stuff, and I needed help. Okay. So sometimes your own expertise can get in your way, and you're the worst person for it. All right. So, but yeah, I help people through all this kind of stuff with their relationships, with their money, anything blocking them basically from what they want and who they are. Right. So that's what I do. And I'm really, really, really exceptional at it. Like, it's my jam. Right. So that's me in a nutshell.
Dude, thank you so much, Chris. Seriously, man. I really, really appreciate this. I love you. And
Okay, man.
I'm so grateful for everything that we did together, and that it will continue to do together moving forward. Right. Because you're a testament. Because you're the everyman who just happens to be a wizard and a magician when it comes to the subconscious mind. So the biggest takeaway I got from this is you can know everything. You can watch hours and hours and hours of YouTube, and you can understand attraction, you can understand masculinity, you can understand frame on a conscious level, but until you can experience it and you put yourself through the ringer, you actually implement and do the things that you've spent hours learning about with someone by your side, to refine the process and to learn from, to reflect, and then to move forward with, then there's nowhere that you can't lead yourself and your woman and your family to.
And I will say this to your point on attraction, because I think I know I've been in this place. I guarantee guys watching this have been in this place where you're looking for like attraction techniques or tips.
Yeah.
Right. Here's the biggest tip, no pun intended. The biggest tip, and we talked about this the other day, is the most attractive thing to your wife is to just be who you are.
Yeah.
Right. It's that with commitment and doing what you say you're going to do. Like, those are absolutely the most attractive things. Like, actually, if I can put in one thing, is like do what you say you're going to do, which is part of being who you are.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. Like, if you commit to it, you do it. Like, for example, I used to not really, like, I'd be haphazard with the trash, which seems like inconsequential, right? But my wife would always be asking me, like, can you take out trash? And it was important to her, right? But I was like, whatever, because I'm like, it wasn't that important to me. I'll do it later. Which comes in, she didn't know how to really communicate her feelings to me, which caused me, to not really lead well as well. But ultimately, I'm responsible for that, right? Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Coming back, you take full responsibility is one of the biggest. That's also the sexiest thing, taking full responsibility. If I could have another sexy tip. Right. Notice none of these are techniques, they're ways of being, right? So it's not about a technique, it's about a way of being. So it's like, I knew that's important to her. So guess what? The garbage for me now is automatic. It seems inconsequential, but it's automatic to me now. And she can count on that to me. And that actually builds her attraction. It seems stupid, right? But it's not about the garbage. It's that it's important to her. She knows I've made it a priority because she's my priority, right? And what she feels is my priority. And therefore that increases trust from something as simple as that. And that's what I know I've done and other guys have done, is like, you think, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Like, why does it even matter? Which basically to her, you're saying, you don't really matter to me. This is how she takes it. You don't really love me. I don't really matter to you. I can't trust you.
Yeah.
And guess what? Then her legs close.
Yeah. It's really the little
and
things.
her heart closes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Heart,
dude.
I'm not sure. Not that in order, but
There's a closing. There's no opening. It's just a closing.
it's just closing.
On every the chakras close, the legs close, the heart closes.
Everything.
Her eyes closed. She just walked around.
Yeah. Her mouth definitely closes.
Her nose, she dies.
Except it's more open as far as nagging is concerned, right? And that's the thing. A lot of people say, "Oh, she's nagging me." It's like there's a reason she's doing that. And one, you got to realize most women don't know how to communicate effectively either. So the only way she knows how to do is nag you. And basically what she's telling you when she's nagging you is, you don't love me, I don't trust you. Again, from her perception in that moment.
Yeah. Which is just,
and she feels like you're her child. And here's the thing. No, we know this. If you want to kill sexiness, you want to kill attraction, let her treat you like a child. Yeah. Be a child. Like let her tell you what to do. Right? So it all comes back to, you have to redirect until you lead it. She can say, take out the trash, right? But you cannot let her tell you to take out the trash. Now this is, again, we're getting into some nuance here.
Yeah. But
it's about you want to say, well, what about me not taking out the trash? What is that like? What do you feel about that? Right? You want to get her back. This is a super, super important concept. What do you actually feel about what you're doing that? And then from there, you're like, oh, well, I don't want you feeling that way. I want to take care of that. I will make sure to take care of that. Then there's your word, there's your commitment. Now you honor it.
Devotion.
And now you let it, though. You just didn't do it because she told you to. Because again, if you do it just because she told you, she will hold resentment towards you. Guaranteed. Because she had to tell you to do it.
Yeah.
And that will be a poison to the relationship. Right.
That's a mic drop right there.
Yeah.
I think we've spoiled these guys enough.
Yeah, this is gold. This is literally, this stuff is probably better stuff than I've seen in all my years of looking at stuff and going through stuff, right? There's so much gold in here. You can literally almost take this and restore your whole relationship.
Yeah,
man. You understand?
Done. Well, then now everyone's like, all right, fuck this guy. I'm not even going to work with him. I just got everything I needed from his testimonials. So.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how good this is. You're going to want, you're going to want to work with Richard because he gave you so much. We gave you so much. It's called the law of reciprocation, right? So it's you have to pay. You have to pay him now, just because. Otherwise you're going to be guilty.
Watch us have the most valuable testimonials, right? Because they actually lead to results, which is all that we're about anyways here at the Heroic Husband. But dude, thank you so much. That you've you know where to find him, you know where to find me. If you're seeing this, then I sent it to you personally. I love you, brother. I'm grateful for you. For everyone here, if you want to sound like this guy in a couple months, then go ahead and reach out and let's have a conversation and let's see where you are, where you want to go, and how I can help you get these results. All right, signing off. Thank you so much.